when you encounter error messages in your travels through using Excel, it's a little unnerving. Sometimes you know what you did wrong and you kind of fix it. Other times you have no clue what you did wrong. You have no idea why it's appearing. So what I've done is I've come up with a number of different scenarios here where we're going to kind of go through it and kind of troubleshoot and figure out what went wrong and possibly how to fix it. We'll kind of go from there. So starting out, first of all, with this first one, we have this, what they call the division by zero error. Now, the reason why that happened is because in this particular worksheet, what we're doing is we're trying to figure out what percentage increase or decrease did our reps do year over year. And you can see with the ones that don't have the errors here, when Kathy this year did 84,000, but last year she did a little bit more than that, it showed that she's down by 20%, and the same thing with Susan and Beavis and Linda. But where the errors are occurring are where we have a zero here. And the reason why is because the way this calculation is done is it takes, in essence, the current number minus the previous number, and then whatever that is, it divides it by the previous number. Well, in this case, it's dividing it by 0, and that's why you're getting this error. All right? Now, you can't just simply just go in there and say, well, I'll just delete it. Well, because if you delete it, then you don't get anything here. So you're better off dealing with the message. And in this case, what we want to do is we want to tell it that the situations where we get the division by 0, we want that to be different. We want it to show something else other than division by 0. So we could actually just kind of salvage the formula. We don't need to retype this whole thing. So what we do here is we'll go to the first one here, which has the error. And regardless, if this didn't have the error, this one had it, I would still change the formula here, just in case maybe later on you find out that, oh, this number is wrong and actually it was a 0, and now you've got problems. So might as well just kind of start from the beginning. So right where we're here, we're going to go back to almost the beginning of the formula. We're going to go right after the equal, and we're going to type in a universal I guess error message fix it, and that's called the if error. So we're going to type in IF, and you'll see if error pop up there, and we'll double click that, right? And we're going to also do here, while we're at it, we're going to put a total of 3 left parentheses, okay? And you'll see why in just a second. So what we're saying in essence, if an error occurs when we're doing F3 minus G3 and then all that divided by 3, if an error occurs, then at the very end here, we'll put a parenthesis, we'll put a comma, and we're saying if the error occurs, what do we want it to do? We want it to put a 0 in there. So put a 0 in there, and then we'll close off the parentheses. See? So we've got 3 left parentheses, and we've got our 3 right parentheses. That's why. All right, now, you enter that in, and we get 0. And we'll go ahead and copy that down. So what is that 0 meaning? Well, it's basically saying if Chip in 2011 did nothing, maybe he wasn't even working here, then we can't really say that he's increased by any percentage. I mean, technically, he has increased by almost an infinite amount because he had 0, and now he's at 110,000 for this year. That's not how you want to look at it. That's not being very fair. So you're better off just saying, you know what, he wasn't around, therefore he gets nothing. It's just 0%. That way everybody else remains whole here, see? So that would be the fix it for that one. So hopefully if you run into situations where any type of calculation that you do, you run into that division by 0, that's a great thing to have in there. Yeah, a lot of times when you put together your worksheets, a lot of them are doing a little bit of dividing here and there, and if you happen to have a 0 or nothing in a cell, that is being used as a divisor, you know, in that formula, then you're going to get that error message right off the bat. It just makes it look like you did something wrong on the worksheet, where you really haven't done anything wrong. We're just waiting for a value to appear in that cell, and it's not there yet. All right, so so instead of having this, you know, division by zero error, and people go, oh, you know, you did the worksheet all wrong, this way it just shows up as a zero, and people understand, oh, it's zero because, well, over there it's zero, right? Okay. Anyway, so the second tab here is showing it being done. Now, we can also, just so you know, get it so where not only do we have it where it's the, before we had the you know, where we say just give us a zero, here we can say the word sorry. It's like, right, so you can even do something like that. Just remember to put the quotation marks on both sides of what you want to be. So normally it would have been like comma zero, but here we want to put something non-value as a result. Well, anything that's non-value in a formula always needs to be you know, surrounded by quotation marks. Okay, now this next one, the NA error, kind of like the not available type error, right? What's happening here? Well, we haven't talked about this yet, or at least this is going to be coming up further on in our videos here in this series. Well, we haven't really talked about the VLOOKUP, but let's just, you know, you don't need to know a lot about it to understand what we're doing here. What's happened with VLOOKUP is what we want to be able to do is type in a product over here, okay? It then looks for that product over here, and when it finds it, in this case, it's going to give us the corresponding cost as a result. So if we typed in, let's say, clam chowder, we'd end up with $3.50 here, that type of thing. Well, in this case, we're getting an NA. Now, why is that? Well, it's because there are no woolly worms in here, all right? So we're getting this. And now this is a very, it's not an unusual thing. It's a very much accepted error message to get when you're doing the VLOOKUP, as you'll see when we're doing those videos later on. But at this point, you might be saying, well, I don't really like there being an NA there. I would rather it, you know, have something that was maybe a little bit more user-friendly. So again, what we're going to do is use that if-error function to say if an error occurs, in this case the NA error occurs, just put maybe the word sorry next to it, all right? Or put nothing in there, all right? So I just have a couple instances so we can kind of compare here. So well, that would be the usual, okay? So over here then, what we'll do is we'll go over here to the VLOOKUP. We'll type in IF. We'll do our if error, all right? And we'll say if an error occurs while performing this calculation, then put the word sorry, right? Meaning it's not available. It's we don't have woolly worms, right? And then we close off the parenthesis, hit enter, there it is, okay? On the other hand, maybe you just want it to be like nothing, maybe just like a zero or something, right? Well, then we'll go back over here. We'll do our IF again for the if error. And at the very end, we'll put comma, 0, and then parenthesis, right? Enter that in, and we just get a hyphen. Just the way that this is formatted, it shows a hyphen as your 0, but it's still considered to be a true 0 in that cell. Okay, so that's how you're going to deal with that. And of course, I've got the done version here that you can look at if you download this file and you want to practice this later on. Now this next one over here is giving us the name error. This usually happens when you're putting a function formula in and you misspell it, let's say. So if you look at the first one here, all right, on here we have the word average with a Q at the end. So all we really have to do is just go in there, delete out the Q, the rest of it's okay, hit the enter key, does that one. We go over this one here, we're looking at this and we're saying, well, what happened here? Well, we have on there, we want to sum, we want to add up, right, the bonus. And it's like, well, the computer doesn't know that this is your bonus. I mean, you put a heading on there, but the computer doesn't associate that one word in there, bonus, with this information here. What's happened is you thought you had given this range here a nickname, or just a name, a range name as we call it, all right? So because it doesn't have a range name right now, it's saying, well, the name that you had put into the formula doesn't mean anything to me. It'd be just as much if we spelled sum with S-U-M-M or something, right? So we got a problem there. Well, you would learn this in one of the other videos, but I'll show it to you now. I'm going to show you guys how to create that range name so that you can, in fact, when you go and do maybe the sum function, you can say, I want to sum bonus instead of having to sum, you know, from I3 through I10. So how do we do that? Well, what you do is you select the range like that. Then up here in what we call the name box, we click up there and we give it a name. And I'll call it, I'll just call it bonus for now because that's what we have already down there. So I'll type in B-O-N-U-S. Doesn't matter if it's uppercase or lowercase. And then, most important, you hit the enter key. And there we go. Now, by having done that, now no error, right? And that's because if we do this little drop down, you'll see bonus in there. I click on the bonus. Bonus is referring to that. So now I can actually use the word bonus in place of I3 through I10. I can either say I3, I10, or I can say bonus, either one. So, very interesting little thing there. And of course now, with this last one, here you might say, well, looks okay to me. And then you realize, oh, look at this. We've got if with two F's in it. So again, we'll just go over there, delete one of them, right? Enter it in. Fixes it right up. So that takes care of that one. Now in another area here, we've got an error message of value. And it's like, well, what does that mean? Well, what it usually means is that in the formula, part of the formula was expecting you to refer to a cell that had a value in it. And instead, you picked something that was non-valued. Well, and this too, by the way, is one of our videos that we have on our series too. So you can learn more about this later on. But right now, what's happening is it needs, in this case, when we're doing this, it needs to look at this here, and also this range over here, right? Well, if you look at what's in here, it looks like it's referring partially to A2, or starting with A2. Well, A2 is the Hanawapialani wiring, right? Well, it's not expecting that. It's expecting to get the starting date. So you're like off one column there, right? Not a big deal. I mean, what you can do is while you're on it, you can just go up here and you can change the A2 to a B2. Now, you can either do it by backspacing right where I'm at the A and putting a B in there. You can also, look at this one. This is a pretty fancy one. Here's this box that's representing the A2. You can actually just kind of point right on the box there. Hold on right where you see that little crosshair right there. Drag it over to there, right? And now that's changed it to B2. And now hit the enter key, and there we go. It comes out just fine. So now I can take that, and I can copy that down, and everything all is fixed. So that's how that works. Now, I got a few more here. A lot of times you're going to get this appearing. Anytime that you see those pound or hash marks, okay, it means that there is a value in there, some sort of a number or what have you, that is not fitting the width of the column. So this column is not wide enough. A real quick, easy way to do it. Now, and by the way, let me just point something out. We have the same problem with column A, but because that's text, it doesn't really care about that. It won't give you that error message there, see? But when it comes to values, it does. So the way you fix it, I'll do the first one first. The way you fix it is you point to the border, the right side border of that column. In this case, we're going to do A first. You double click it, and it makes it just wide enough. Same thing here now. We're going to go to the right-hand side of B. You get that double-tipped arrow, double-click it. There you go. You might find you might need a little bit more room. You can kind of stretch it out a little bit further if you'd like to. And then you have the same thing over here in column I. We'll go ahead and we'll double-click that one. Maybe make it wider as well. There we go. And that's how that works. So not much to do there. That was pretty easy stuff there. Now, here we're getting a referential error. And usually what that means is that when you click on one of the cells, let's say I click on this first one here, this was primarily to total up, taking the quantity times the unit price, which happens to be way over here now. But it used to be over here. And it gave us like the extended price. Well, the problem is that if you move a cell or a column or whatever that a formula is referring to, it doesn't know to change and update to where that information was moved to. So instead of it changing, it ends up just saying, well, you're timesing or you're multiplying by, and now there's a referential error here, okay? So how do you fix it? Well, in this kind of a situation, hopefully you haven't deleted it. If you would have deleted the information, if you would have deleted the price or the percentage for the rep, that'll be the other thing we're talking about here. But if you had deleted this column when it was over here, then you're really in trouble, because it's like, where are you going to get that information, right? Unless you maybe re-download the information, if in fact you did download it. If you had typed it all in by hand, and you have no backup, and you're just going to be in a real mess here. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this back in between these two where it belongs, okay? That'll be our first step here. So how do we do that? What's the easiest way to do that? Easiest way would be to click on to R, okay? Just click on to the heading R there. Right-click it and hit cut, because we're going to just move it, all right? So cut it. Then we're going to go over here to K. Now watch this. Now normally a lot of you are used to, if you try to paste it in here, it's going to wipe out this, but you'll notice that we have a little menu choice that maybe you've never noticed before. If we do a right-click on K, instead of just doing a regular paste, we're going to do a insert cut cells. And what that will do is it'll insert them between the two, right? And at the same time, it'll do that. I mean, that's the main thing. And at the same time, it puts it in between there and gets it all nice and cozy there. So anyway, so we'll go ahead and we'll say insert cut cells, just like that. And there we go. Now we're still going to have the referential error, because it's, it's still not, clear what's going on. So we'll go back to that formula, which still has the REF in it. And we can actually just go up there and kind of backspace out that error. So now it's going to be J2 times what? Well, J2 times K2. And we can just click on the K2 there, right? Enter that in. And we can go ahead and take that, and we can go ahead and copy that all the way down. Fixes that right up. Now we need to fix this rep commission. This rep commission was saying, hey, take, what's an L2 or the total, and multiply it by their rate that they get. Now, again, we want to get this moved. I think in this case, we'll put it where it was originally at, which was between F and G here, okay? Now here's another way that you can actually move stuff, all right? Move a column in this case, right? You can actually click onto the column just like that, point to the edge, like right here, hold down the control key, and hold down the mouse button. Either way, doesn't matter which way you do it, which order is fine, as long as you got the two held down now, right? And then what you do is you drag it. Oop, I messed up there. It does make a difference. Hang on a second here. In this case, it does. So what you want to do is you want to kind of point right here. Well, I was on the wrong key. I'm sorry. So anyway, so you're on here. Hold down your mouse button. Hold down your shift key. And as you drag it, notice what happens here. We get this little, like an I-beam here, right? Now this is using the control, or I'm sorry, the shift key. See, we're so used to doing the control key all the time. That's what messes us up here. You want the shift key. You drag it over to where you want it. In this case, it's going to be there. You'll let go of the mouse first, then the shift key, and there you go. And then we can go back to the formula. We can backspace out the referential error just like that. And then we can just click on to that first percentage. There we go. That's it. So it's basically taking this times that, right? Enter that in. There we go. And we can take that and we can copy it all the way down. There you go. Pretty cool. Might have to do something about the color, but other than that, you get the technique. So hopefully, you know, some of these are going to help you out in the future. Maybe you've run into this stuff before and you're like, I don't even know what to do. Now, at least you have an idea of what you can do to kind of troubleshoot the situation. So thanks for watching the video.